Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin, Buchanan.
Make a mistake. We're not going anywhere. This is going to be a great program, and we're building it into a great program.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I stand by what we do and how we do it.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Let's make it simple. We talked about it all offseason. I legit talked about it on this show, I don't know, 174 times, where it got annoying. Stop talking about it. It all starts and ends with the offensive line, the blocking. That's the problem with the team this year. That's it. I mean, are there other issues? Of course, every team's got issues. You block, you give your quarterback a little time. You get rid of the ball a little bit faster, too. There's a symbiotic relationship, if that's the right term. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Fresh off our bye week, a couple of days off. He's Olin Buchanan, our Heisman Trophy voter. I'm David Nuño. OB, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. How did you enjoy your time off, and what did you do?
I said this to Nick. Nobody wants to hear, like, it didn't feel like time off per se, because as you know, I'm in a season of life where my children are very busy. Right? So there was a lot of soccer, a lot of driving, Houston back and forth. I worked the soccer game on Thursday night, the Aggie soccer game. Yeah. I went to visit my parents. It was great. I needed a little time to recharge my battery.
Right.
But there isn't a lot of recharging going on because there's not a lot of laying. Like, to me, real time off is laying on the couch, just watching football the whole time, right? But I've avoided sports. I did have the game on last night, the Astros-Rangers, and I turned it off. And I had it on, and I turned it off because I'm not at a point right now until Aggie football gets fixed that I don't want to get emotionally too charged up or down with any kind of sport. So I'm keeping up with it because it's my job, watching what I can. But also when it's time to watch something else, what did we watch this weekend? We watched something this weekend. I forget what. We watched movies. But it was nice. That was a long answer for something you needed just 5 seconds for.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
You?
Had some crazy travel.
Yeah.
From Birmingham to Houston and then finally to Harlingen to spend the weekend in South Padre, which we did finally. And it was great. It was great. Took Irma dancing on Friday night.
What?
Yeah.
Two-stepping or Latino style?
No, man. I was just rocking.
Buddy, I was thinking of you yesterday.
Were you?
This is going to I don't think it's going to make you laugh. It's just, we have a mutual friend.
Well, I'm sure we have many.
Well, not even a friend. So I watched Saturday Night Live, which I never do.
Okay.
You know who was the host of Saturday Night?
I don't.
His name is Benito, Bad Bunny.
Oh, Bad Bunny. Okay.
You know who Bad Bunny brought on stage on 2 different occasions?
I have no idea.
The coolest man in the world.
Mick Jagger?
Mick Jagger and Bad Bunny are boys.
How about that?
They did a couple skits together.
See, just goes to show that how cool Mick Jagger. And he's like 100 years old too.
Well,
he's still getting it done.
There was a skit. I can't do it justice. I won't. But he basically played a nun. But he was Mick Jagger as a nun.
Okay.
And
yeah,
the nuns liked Mick Jagger.
I bet they do. Yeah.
So it was good. So all right, let's move on to some sports. You heard me start it off. I know blocking doesn't fix everything.
You can fix a lot.
But I think the offense that Bobby Petrino brought, that I know we keep saying, where's the creativity? Where's this? Where's that? Like, if you block, I know I'm in the minority. I think the offense last year, if you block, looks a lot better. It does. Are there other things they can do to, get some explosive? Sure. But it does come down to opening holes and also protecting your quarterback.
Is it fair, though? Is it fair for me to wonder, is Bobby Petrino calling plays in his offense, or is he calling plays from Jimbo Fisher's offense? Is it fair for me to just ask?
I think it's a completely fair assessment, a question you can ask. I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever really know. But the bottom line is, if you like Connor Wegman, to me, look, we lost games with Connor too, right? It's not like saying there was the Miami loss, there was losses last year. But what Connor's biggest strength, I think, is, or one of his biggest strengths, is he makes people around him better, right? The offensive line looked better when he was quarterback because he saw the same kind of pressure. He just got rid of the ball quicker. But the reality is, the blocking, and I'm talking running backs, tight ends, offensive line, have not been good.
It's true. It's true. If I was giving the offensive line a grade overall, it'd be at best a C.
At best.
At best. And that to me, that's somewhat bewildering when you consider how many guys are on that offensive line that a lot of programs wanted desperately.
Yeah.
So where's the disconnect?
That's a great question. So did the bye week do anything for you beyond recharging your battery? Just when it comes to, you know what, I think this team can still go 8-4, 9-3, whatever. Like, did it do anything for you?
Yeah, but not anything that A&M did, right? And you think I think to me a good question that will not get answered today, but the good question is, were there any specific areas that you really focused on in the bye week? And the answer is going to be everything. We focused on everything, right? So it's not going to be, we focused on this offensive line issue, or but you still have to ask it, fully knowing that you're going to get coach speak answer, right? But here's what makes me think they can go 8-4. Okay?
Which, by the way, you saying that doesn't mean you accept that, right? Nobody.
Right. But it's hard for me to watch LSU move the ball up and down the field and think this A&M team is going to go beat them.
Sure.
I didn't think there was any way A&M was going to beat them last year. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean they can't. But number one, they haven't won it in Baton Rouge since 94. And number two, LSU can score a lot. And A&M has issues sometimes in the secondary. All right? Big problem there. And then
scoring in the second half.
And then A&M has to score with them, right? Yeah. So what have I seen that show me that those things can happen? And I think even the most ardent A&M supporter could look at that and say, well, yeah, you got a point, right? But I see Ole Miss struggle with – was it Auburn they struggled with?
Ole Miss struggled with Auburn, yeah.
Auburn.
It was a close game.
I see Ole Miss struggle with Auburn. I see
Auburn's getting better.
I see South Carolina
struggle with everybody.
Mississippi State actually won, but they scored 7 points in doing so. So I look at what's out there, and I see those teams made themselves look or showed themselves to be, with the exception of LSU, and they're playing Army, quite vulnerable. Now, the question is, can A&M exploit that or capitalize? Because I watched Alabama and Tennessee and came away thinking, yeah, both of those teams, neither one of them are great teams. They're good.
I think it is, you can say, or you can expect for A&M to do to South Carolina. You can, I'm trying to phrase it the way I want to. I don't even know if I can get the right words for it, but you can expect what A&M did to Auburn and Arkansas. You can expect that they can do that to South Carolina this weekend at home.
Yes. I mean, did you see that South Carolina gave up 6 sacks to Missouri?
Mm-hmm.
They gave up 9 to North Carolina in the first game. I think, was it Tennessee had 7?
Yep.
They have an offensive line that gives up a lot of sacks. You have a defensive front that gets a lot of them. I think you can keep Spencer Rattler under pressure the whole game.
You can get 8 sacks in that game, buddy.
And if you do that, first, here's what you've got to do, though. When you get a sack, you can't waste it. You can't give up a sack and have them at 3rd and 17 and they give up the first down. When you get the sack, make them punt on that possession. You're only going to get about 12 possessions a game, right?
Right.
So let's say you get 12 possessions a game, 8 of them are sacks. Make them punt if you get 8 sacks in those possessions, and
you win the game.
And you probably win the game, right?
So, but if you do not play the way you played against Auburn and Arkansas, then that tells you this is who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think they're more like
they don't have the defense that Tennessee and Alabama have.
Right.
First of all. But when does A&M, when you go into a game, you say, okay, this team has an issue with this, whatever. Might be run defense, passing, whatever. When does A&M typically follow the trend?
Again, it comes back to it's about A&M. It's not about the other teams. Now, I could sit here and tell you Alabama's better than I thought. Well, they've gotten better, right? They're a second half team.
They are that.
I could tell you that Tennessee is better than I thought.
You were in a position to beat both of those teams, and you didn't.
Miami, better than I thought. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just got to win games.
What we're going to be doing after the end of this year is looking at it and thinking, how did this team not win 10 games?
Are we, though?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you're going to look at the teams, and you're going to be saying, how did you let Miami off the hook? How did you let Tennessee off the hook?
I would if I didn't have the last couple of years as evidence.
Well, there's that, right?
Like I would think that, but there's been too many examples of this team losing games.
It may be 3 years from now when you see all these players doing real well in the NFL, and you're thinking, how did you not win more games with them?
Well, you better win some games. I mean, for multiple reasons. You want to keep that recruiting class as high as possible. You want to keep kids on campus and not have them listening to the chatter in their ears from other places. You've been building towards, I'm not saying next year Nuño here, but you've been building towards what next year should have been or could be. And that all could be out the door if you don't win some games the rest of the way. And I mean win games, plural. Nobody wants 8-4. Nobody.
No.
But at this point, is that best case scenario? I mean, best case is obviously 9-3, but do you really think that they can win 2 road games the way they played? Nothing would tell you should suggest that they will.
Yeah, especially because Lane Kiffin takes even more joy in beating A&M, I think, than any other program that they face, with the possible exception of Mississippi State. And you bring that up, and maybe this is not the time to talk about it, but I do think I won't elaborate, but I do think that, let's just say the rest. I'm not going to go there yet. Let's just say the rest of the season is very important for a myriad of reasons.
A myriad. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can text us at 979-693-1150. You can call us. We'll even listen to you. We got a little bit of an announcement during the show at some point, either 8:20, 8:35. You got to wait for management to arrive to the building. But somewhere in the 8 o'clock hour, you'll hear a little bit of a cool announcement. Nothing like change or anything, just something cool TexAgs is working on. So we'll do that here in a little while. Let's go behind the glass and say hi to Nick Savage, who did a great job over the weekend, or Thursday, Friday, hosting with Luke Evangelist. What's up, buddy? Your mic's not on.
Yeah, I know. Now it is. Yeah, Luke did a great job. It was a lot of fun hosting with him. Thanks again for letting us do that. But what I want to talk about, if I can pull up my notes. There we go. Something I'm watching, as I'm sure we all are. Say what?
Nothing. Go ahead.
This is like the worst back and forth between me and you of all time. Anyways,
now it got worse by you bringing it up.
Yeah, I know. South Carolina allowing 4.43 sacks per game. A&M getting 4.14 sacks per game. Obviously, that's in the trenches, something that everyone will be watching, but that sounds like that matchup is going to favor A&M pretty heavily. So if A&M can keep that pressure up coming into this weekend, I think they'll be in good shape.
So Daniel Sanchez on the YouTube page says, can we start the week off with some positive thoughts? What is something positive? The sacks. We feel pretty confident they're going to be able.
A lot of sacks appeal in this game.
Sacks appeal. Look, you want something positive? I expect A&M to dominate South Carolina. That's positive.
I expect them to beat South Carolina.
Okay.
I'm at a point where
defensively dominate South Carolina. Maybe.
Yeah, I just think A&M seems to play to the level of its competition, and I hope they don't. I hope they go out and dominate, but I expect them to win because they play, even though they play to the level of their competition.
The loser of that game, then you got to wonder, how South Carolina's got 4 losses now?
I haven't looked, but that sounds right. They've lost to Missouri. They've lost to Tennessee. They've lost to North Carolina.
Say it. You can say it on the mic.
It's 2-5.
2 and wow.
2-5.
Yeah.
I think they're better than 2-5.
Ooh, you could put South Carolina could be in danger of not reaching bowl eligibility.
That's right.
They got Kentucky and Clemson left.
Don't forget about A&M.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking if they lose to A&M,
They got Jacksonville State.
They'll win that one. They'll beat Vandy.
Didn't Jacksonville State beat somebody big last year?
I want to say they may have. They've been. Yeah. They're a thorn in the side. It's a pretty decent FBS program.
Look at Clemson also having a rough start to their year. I believe
they choked this week to Miami.
They did. Well, Miami needed it after they choked. There's the Georgia Tech, so it all evens out. Hopefully, it can even out for A&M the rest of the way. All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center to check in with Jared Schultz, Angry Elephant. That's where Aggies gather, by the way. Go check out the Angry Elephant. Jared, what's going on in your world, buddy?
I don't know how to not bring it up, but Rangers are playing in Game 7 tonight, and I bought tickets to go, so I will be there no matter what.
Outstanding.
Congratulations.
I'm very excited. So it's been a lifelong pain, OB and I know. Trying to be
you don't know
fan.
lifelong. What are you, 20?
You're like 9, okay?
It's a lifelong.
I mean, yeah, Blue Jays series was pretty hard back in the day, but 2014, 15.
Again, how old are you? 20?
20.
In the first 5 years, you probably didn't even know what was going on. He thinks he's got pain. I've been following this team since '72.
No, you beat me out. You beat me out for sure.
No kidding.
Yeah. No, hey.
But yes.
All I got to say is the Astros have been there before. We'll see. They've also been in this position, Nick pointed it out, against the Nationals, where they lost the first 2 games, went to D.C. I was there with them, won those 3, came back and lost the last 2.
What I find hilarious is there is a nice balance of Astros fans and Rangers fans in this building.
Yep.
And here they are playing tonight with a trip to the World Series at stake, and it seems like the fans on both sides are miserable.
You know what I like?
Just miserable, and nobody's confident.
What I like about at least what I've experienced so far, we'll see if the Rangers win, if it changes, but how there hasn't been, I don't feel trash talk in the building. Like, it's not like, like it's been pretty on social media, different animal. But like, I feel like here, it's like you're saying, both fan bases are expecting a loss.
Because we don't, neither fan base has confidence.
And I keep telling, we
can't win at home.
Nick is a big Astros fan, and he's just miserable. Oh, they're at home, they can't score. And I say, Nick, take all the analytics, take all the trends, throw them away. All you need to know are 3 words and listen to the sage advice of someone with experience. They're the Rangers. They'll let you down.
Who's pitching tonight for the Rangers?
Scherzer against Javier.
And he was saying Nick was saying the Astros, they never win against Scherzer. I said Game 3.
The Astros have never won a playoff series where Scherzer was on the other roster.
He's never been on the roster against the Rangers.
This is the game that determines if that trade was worth it or not, right?
No, it's worth it because look, growing up, they've had teams that they got rid of their best players just to make money.
Right.
And now at least they have just the fact that you tried as a Rangers fan is a win, that you have a front office that will try.
Right. All right, let's hit a break. Do you have anything else, Jared?
I'm good for now. I can talk more later.
All right, we'll get in with Jared here. I think Brandon Jones is in the building, so we're going to check in with him here in a moment. Right now, though, OB, man, I was so mad at my friend Juan.
Why?
He didn't arrive till late. So
I know where you're going.
You know what I'm saying? I wanted to go eat Fargo's. I wanted to go there and eat, right? I wanted the experience of being there. Like, I felt like I'd be like Norm.
Saying hi to everybody.
Yeah, hey, hugs, Belender, Maurice, what up?
And who else? People, Alan, dignitaries, local dignitaries.
Oh, hey, Coach Henry, whatever,
yeah,
right? Like, that's what I wanted. I wanted to show Juan, like, hey, look at me. I'm cool at Fargo's.
Yeah, right.
Didn't happen. He showed up late. Of course, he's always late, like certain people I know. And that's all right. Now I can plan it for the next time he comes.
Right.
He did say he'll come back to town if the Astros make the World Series. There's a big if. We'll find
he's
out
coming
tonight.
back.
Well, I hope so. Maybe he can celebrate the Rangers as well. That being said, what would I have gotten?
Well,
on a Saturday?
It was a Saturday. Well, you said late, so the rib tips
it would have been
gone.
Out. But if I was able to,
had he showed up early, because if you want the rib tips,
you got to get there.
And trust me, you want them. You've got to get there early. In fact, you might need to call in, and it's like reserving a table at Fargo, you got to reserve the rib tips because they're that spectacular. They're meat dessert.
They're meat dessert. Did you know? I don't think you knew this, but I'll see if you know. Did you know they're one of the top 50 barbecue joints in the world?
Yeah, because they're one of the top 50 in Texas. In fact, if you're in the top 50 barbecue joints in Texas, that means you're one of the top 50 in the world.
1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt, the what?
It's the best barbecue in Texas, i.e. the world. You know why?
That's their trademark.
Isn't it? Because it's true.
It is true, buddy. It's Fargo's. Go check it out. Gonna have a little sip of coffee. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. We've got TexAgs CEO Brandon Jones in the house. Hello, Brandon.
Hey, David. How are you?
I'm good, man. So you got a little bit of a cool thing that TexAgs is working on, a little announcement?
I do have a cool thing, something that we've been working on for the better part probably of 6 months. But the origins of it are a lot older than that. But I did want to say, usually when I don't come on the radio show very often, and usually when I come on, it's to announce something or something like that. At some point, I need to mix that up. Like maybe sometime
I'll
sports
come on.
talk? Yeah, sports talk, or maybe I'll come on the radio and announce some bad news or something like that. Or
well, we've had enough bad news on Saturdays, so let's keep.
You got to do both.
Yeah. Well, it just kind of keeps people on their toes a little bit. If I just get on the radio every time and announce, something. Anyway, but without further ado, we are announcing this morning TexAgs coffee.
Huh. TexAgs coffee.
This is TexAgs coffee. This project we've been working on for about 6 months. It's in conjunction with the Center for Coffee Research and Education at the Borlaug Institute at Texas A&M. So they
and Eric Redder's with them.
Eric's with them, and so Eric will talk coffee, a lot more coffee than I'm able to talk here in a second.
Okay.
It's also in conjunction with a roaster up in the DFW area called Voltage Coffee. And so we're excited to partner with them. And even more so, and this is kind of going back to what an old idea this was, the coffee that's in this bag is from the farm of Guayo Palomo Paca.
Wow.
Class of 82 in El Salvador. So what's unique about this coffee, several things. One, we can all drink it together every morning and take in our TexAgs radio,
which we have,
good
by
or
the way.
bad, right? And so the coffee will be helpful, if we had a late night in celebration. It's also helpful if we're down in the dumps. Like the only thing good going on is my cup of coffee. So that we can do that together.
Right.
If you remember, we did a 32-minute documentary, and Guayo was one of the stars of this thing. It was okay. So Guayo was one of the stars of this, and it was about the varsity men's soccer team,
The Lost Letterman.
The Lost Letterman.
That's right.
It was actually a story that you and Gabe brought back from El Salvador.
Okay, but we went to El Salvador and met with a lot of those guys.
So when we went and shot that film in El Salvador, we spent several days there. And one of my favorite moments was going to Guayo's family coffee farm in kind of the hills of El Salvador. It was beautiful. And we actually filmed some of those shots, actually made the film. But I can remember talking to Guayo a lot about coffee on that trip, getting to know him, and then also his family farm. His family has been in coffee for 5 generations. Wow. And so he is deep in coffee. And so this is a partnership, right? What's in this bag is a partnership between TexAgs, Voltage, Guayo, and the Coffee Center. And so I'm going to hand it over to I'm going to talk a little bit more about the bag here in a second, but I want to hand it over to Eric just to talk about like the significance of what's in the bag, the type of coffee, why it's unique. Yeah. So,
sure.
And tell me about the Coffee Center.
So that just to give you a little bit of a background of the Coffee Center. So basically, we have been working in coffee since early 2000 from Texas A&M University. Back in around the 1990s, there was a Rwandan genocide. And Texas A&M University had the opportunity to do through the Borlaug Institute a coffee project in Rwanda, specifically helping women farmers, improving quality and how to understand how to improve coffee at the agriculture producing at the farm level, how to teach them how to cup to understand quality so they can sell their coffee for better prices. And after the project was over, we came to the realization that coffee research was needed. And so the World Coffee Research was created here at Texas A&M University, which is one of the biggest institutions for research in coffee nowadays. Eventually, the World Coffee Research became its own independent organization. And in 2016, Texas A&M created the Center for Coffee Research and Education to continue the work that we do in coffee. Our mission or objective is to help smallholder farmers increase incomes. But also in the last couple of years, our work has been focused with students to teach them how to drink good coffee. And this is also true for the general public. Most of us for our whole lives have been drinking really awful, cheap coffee. And we associate that with lower prices, that we have to pay like really low price for coffee. And the reality is that some of the coffees can be amazing and very expensive. We're talking about $10,000 per kilo.
That's not what's in this.
That's
bag,
not what's
though.
in there. That's not what's in there. So I want to make clear. But one of the things is that for many of us that are at Texas A&M fans or alumni are, one of the things is that we have a lot of coffee former students that have coffee in their family. Guayo Palomo is actually one of those families, and actually the variety Pacas, which is there's different varieties in coffee. Arabica is the one that you have in your bag is that Arabica coffee, which is one of the best quality coffees you can drink. But just like apples, you go to the store and you go buy a Granny Smith or a Fuji or a Golden. I think it's the Golden Smith.
Delicious.
The Golden Delicious. Thank you. Yeah. There's a variety of coffee. There's Bourbon. There's Caturra, and one of the varieties is Pacas, and it's actually after his last name, Pacas, that was created. Yeah. I didn't know that until he told me that, because I didn't know that was one of his last names, Pacas. But back to the point is this partnership is basically a way for us to bring coffee at the forefront of the university. Texas A&M, there's only two centers in the U.S. There's UC Davis, and there's Texas A&M University. UC Davis is an amazing place for coffee. However, they mostly focus on that consumer side, where Texas A&M University is trying to focus on the whole value chain, specifically all the way from mountaintops all the way to the tabletops. And what we're trying to do is bringing, like I was saying, to the forefront of coffee into the university, not only because we're trying to help coffee farmers and some even connect with some of our former students, but also make Texas A&M that leading institution in coffee as well.
That's awesome. We're going to bring in Guayo from El Salvador, and if you can cue him up, Nick. I did want to say, right now you can buy TexAgs coffee. It is ready to go. Just go to texags.com/coffee, and you can buy it single bag, or you can buy a subscription so that it's at your house every week, every 2 weeks, however often you drink coffee. So it's ready to buy right now at texags.com/coffee. But we have Guayo. It feels like I've been at that table, Guayo. Is that?
Howdy, Brandon.
Hey, how are you?
B. David, Eric.
What up?
Good to see you all.
Hey, let's talk coffee. I've announced it. Everybody knows it's out there. Tell me a little bit about it. What can they expect about what's in the bag?
Well, this is what they can expect. It's morning, where you beat the hell out of every feeling you have. So for my Astro friends, I think El Bombi was on some kind of my coffee yesterday. So it was great. I'm really happy and honored to be a part of this. What's in the bag? It's a story of a lot of Aggies. We've gone to A&M, and especially I did wanting to be a farmer. I wanted to always say, I knew that I wanted to dedicate my life to agriculture. I didn't expect the A&M to have an area of study on coffee. I had to go to A&M and learn all the grasses of East Texas, all the weeds from the panhandle that we didn't have here. I needed to learn about soils that we didn't have here. Now that Texas A&M has closed that gap and has reached further for a crop that is we call it an orphan crop because it's consumed most in places where it's not produced. But coffee has a great story. I think it's also the story, like Eric said, the story of a lot of our lives. My family has been in the coffee business for, we're trying to say about 5, maybe even 7 generations, but I don't have documents on the first 2 generations. So that's homework that we still need to do.
You'll find that. You'll find that, Guayo.
It's a fascinating story, but this is also not only the story of our dedication to continue with this beautiful crop, this beverage. It's one of the only crops where you don't eat the inner part of the fruit. You eat the seed. So in order to eat the seed, you need so much preparation. And it's a lot like football. It's like you've got to go to Friday night football to see the new players, what they're bringing out. So that's the way we do with the varieties. We go, we put them in soils that are close to volcanic areas, beautiful mountains, but they're very vulnerable soils. So you have to keep them, for a long time. Well, once you got a coffee variety, it takes about 2 to 3 years to produce. So it's a long-term investment. It's you take a leap of faith, and you need to know and have a vision of what you want to do. And my vision is to transform the people. I'm fortunate to have a lot of great people working for us. The soil, the tropics are eroding quickly. Some people are predicting that in the next 25 years, we won't have Arabica coffee. So I do believe in Arabica, Eric, and the studies and the research that A&M is undertaking. It's going to help us do that. And not only that, it's going to help us do this. This is what coffee is for. Coffee is to sit down in the morning, to have a conversation, to enjoy. And I think TexAgs has done the right thing. They've packaged it in a way where we will be able to connect forever. So I think it's a blessing that I'm here this morning. And thank you for picking this. It's another great story. And it all came from, my time at the Texas A&M soccer team, when we had our varsity team, and Brandon and
Clay
and
Andrew
and Andrew came down, and Obi and Gabe Buck had been here before for a muster, so they've all been to the farms and they know our passion, and that we're committed to maintaining this. And I think that every Aggie now that it's drinking a cup of coffee will help the work that we're doing at the Texas A&M Center.
Yeah, you're on the board, correct? You're on the board of the Coffee Center?
Yeah, I serve on the board. I'm very fortunate to have been picked. And also, we've got a great partnership with Voltage, Matt Fisher and Matea up in Decatur. They're awesome. And, I know they're having a great time right now because they're all Ranger fans. So I was up there with them, and it is a place that I want to go back to. In fact, I think, Eric, we got a trip coming to Uganda that I didn't know that I had to go. So, well, count me in. They had a great kid. So this is the type of work that A&M does. It's always bringing value to farm areas in the world. And I'm, I couldn't be more thrilled to be a part of it.
Well, we're really excited to partner with you, Guayo. It makes such a difference to plow into a project when you actually have been, to the source of this stuff and you know who's behind it. I want to remind everybody, texags.com/coffee. That's where you go to order your first bag. Now, in my haste to announce this, I did forget to announce that this particular blend that we're talking about, this roast, is called Beat the Hell Out of Morning. Okay? Because we all need to, every once in a while get up and just beat the hell out of morning. Or maybe every morning we need to do that. And I'm not going to zoom in too much on the bag because for all of those complaining about Stewart not doing run the numbers or whatever, he spent some time on this bag integrating a lot of Easter eggs into it. And, on the sides and maybe other places, a lot of TexAgs lore is on the bag. So just based on that, that what's in the bag is probably pretty good, right? Guayo, tell me about Arabica coffee, because those are the beans that are in this bag. You still there, Guayo?
Yes. Well, there are a lot of coffee varieties. Most of the ones that we know are two of them: Arabica, or what people call normally Typica. Mostly in the industrial world, it's Typica and Robusta. The Arabica beans tend to be more flavorful. They tend to elicit more notes of floral, fruits, even you can taste. My taste buds aren't that developed, but some of the guys in Texas A&M has done a lot of work in trying to scientifically determine what is the parameter to taste coffee. You know, coffee is a lot like wine. So what's the best wine? My dad used to say the cheapest wine you like, but it's not like that. It really isn't. So in coffee, the cheapest one tends to be the worst. So in coffee and in Arabica, in order to produce those coffees, you need to play with many of the sub-variety species that you have. That's what Eric said. And I'm fortunate to carry on a family tradition in both sides, in the Palomo and the Pacas, of breeding. So my grandfather and his great-grandfather and my great-grandfather developed a variety called Pacas, which was a mutation of the Bourbon. So the coffee originates from Ethiopia, and it's made its way to the Americas through several ways. Most people think there was through Dutch merchants that brought it to Curacao, and then some people that brought it, some Portuguese that brought it to Brazil. But the Arabica tends to grow in this region of the tropics that is very, very fragile. You know, we're all sitting, and it's called mostly the poverty belt. So if you look at where El Salvador, Honduras, go to Rwanda and Vietnam, so we're sitting on an area that it's vulnerable due to climate change. So Arabica needs a soil that is rich in nutrients, volcanic soils. It needs to be up in beautiful rainforest mountains, and it needs shade. It needs pruning. It needs selecting. It's just like a football player, you know, when you bring it to the nursery or to R.C. Slocum's camp. I remember I used to bring coffee to R.C. Slocum.
Hey, Guayo.
Yes, sir.
Hang on to that story. We're going to come back after a break. I did want to say, at the top of the bag, there's 5 stars, so we know it's exactly right. It's just like football. This is a 5-star bag.
5-star bag. TexAgs coffee. Well, we'll get into some football. It is TexAgs Radio. All right, we're going to wrap things up here. TexAgs Coffee presented by, the show is presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour presented by The Warehouse is CC Creations. Brandon Jones still with us as we talk. Eric and Guayo are still with us, OB. So somebody texted in, is it ground or is it beans that they will be getting?
You can get ground or beans.
Okay.
So either. And so, again, go to texags.com/coffee. It's actually going to kick you over to a third-party site, which is Voltage Coffee. They're handling it's small batch roasted, so they're not going to roast it until you order it. Mm-hmm. And so that's another important part. It's not sitting on the store shelf for 4 weeks before you pick it up and take it home, and it sits in your cabinet for another 5 days. This is roasted small batch, and it's roasted multiple times a week and sent out to you. So it's going to kick you over to a third-party site. Our friends over there at Voltage. I know that we're running out of time. Guayo, you still there?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much. We're going to have to arrange a time, some other time, where we can talk 5 hours about coffee together on an extended show of the radio, because I remember taking you to lunch when I first, shortly after I pitched this idea to you. Voltage came to me and said, hey, let's partner up on a coffee. And I said, well, only if we can source the coffee from Guayo. And they were all for that. And I took you to lunch, and I was like, hey, tell me about the business of coffee. And we sat there for an hour and a half talking, and I think we just barely scratched the surface of coffee. It's such a rich, deep, part of kind of the human experience at this point. So go get your bag of coffee. Beat the hell out of morning TexAgs coffee. Eric, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I'd love to do some stuff with you again, too, with the Coffee Center as we talk about this. We're all sitting here drinking it. I'm going to turn it over to you, David. Thanks, Guayo, for coming in, because you've got a role to play here, too.
Yeah, so we're going to be giving away coffee for the next little bit.
Yes, we are.
One bag a day.
A bag a day.
For a little while, undisclosed time. We're not going to tell you how much. And what we're going to do is you're going to text 979-693-1150, type in the word TexAgs Coffee, right, the 2 words, and we're going to randomly select from that list. At the end of the show, we'll announce it at 10:50 who gets it, and you'll have to come to TexAgs Studios to pick it up. But we're going to do one a day and randomly select a winner, and we will get back to you towards the end of the show to let you know who wins that. So we're going to open it up now, 979-693-1150. Any final thoughts?
No, my only final thought is when they go and cut the grass out there, the exhaust blows into the studio.
Yeah.
What is up with that?
Yeah.
That is ruining the coffee experience. We're going to do something about that.
You need a cup of TexAgs coffee.
Right. Yeah, we're going to need to do
that.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Guayo. We're excited about this partnership. Eric in the Coffee Center. Folks at Voltage, Matt Fisher, thank you so much. So we're excited about this. I'm sure people have plenty of questions on the boards. I'll be on there later today answering those. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. We'll hit a break here. We will come back with more. Guayo, Eric, thank you very much. Brandon as well. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Football. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creation. Some of the conversations we have in studio are fun. We'll do another show one day. What do we call it? TexAgs. There's something, like if they could hear what we talk about during the breaks.
Yeah.
TexAgs off the chain.
TexAgs After Dark.
After
maybe.
Dark. There we go.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, it's time for Around Aggie Land. I promise, OB, we're going to talk football. Presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank is the place to go for all your great needs. Rock solid banking. Website, normandystatebank.com.
You know, they're going to need some of that coffee on Saturdays since that game's at 11 a.m.
Yeah. And by the way, we'll announce the winner. Coffee's really good. I know you're not a coffee guy. I'm team coffee.
The wife, like I said, has had Guayos coffee before. She is a coffee connoisseur, and she gives it her highest endorsement.
Did she text TexAgs coffee?
She actually texted me saying, bring me some, but I don't think she understands that I just can't grab it and go.
Yeah.
Because then I'm stealing.
Right. I'll show you how to do it without getting caught.
Okay.
Yes, so we had some different sports going on over the weekend that do not include football. So soccer, Jasmine Wilkinson highlighted a thrilling afternoon in Rocky Top as she scored 3 goals and an electric game winner to win that game 4-3. A&M will now close the regular season on the road at LSU this Thursday. Volleyball ultimately fell twice, unfortunately, over this weekend to number 17 Florida, 3-1, and then Georgia 3-0 got swept at Reed Arena. The Aggies will now head to Tennessee next Sunday before returning home to take on Alabama. And then some equestrian news. You're not going to switch up the sound today?
Nay, I am not.
The number 4 equestrian team.
What was that?
Nay, it's a horse noise.
Horse noise. They won in thrilling fashion, defeating number 5 Oklahoma State 10-9 on Saturday afternoon. They're now going to face the NCAA defending national championships in SMU this upcoming Thursday. And then now y'all can talk some football. Texas A&M will be back in action. Yes.
SMU's the defending national champion in what?
In equestrition.
Of course they are. They're the Mustangs.
That's what they do.
It's fitting, isn't it?
Yeah, they're cheating.
True.
Of course it is SMU.
They'll have a good battle with it. Oh, man. Back to some football. Texas A&M will be back in action after a bye week with an 11 a.m. kick on ESPN against South Carolina on Saturday.
Oh, I need some coffee.
So, OB, tell me something good about A&M football.
They can rush the passer. That they're going to win this week, even though it is 11 a.m. game, and that's not good. You're in the what I call the mowing zone, but you got to start winning more. And but they're going to win this week.
I think
I
so
count
too.
on it.
I do. I'm not worried. Should I be worried?
Worried? No.
Concerned?
But
Should I?
Concerned? Yeah, maybe. You
got to beat a 2-5 team.
You got to be confident. You got to be confident
at home.
At home. A team you would have beaten last year had you just showed up. Again, they didn't show up. You got to show up early.
Off a bye
11 a.m. 11 a.m. Get your coffee.
That was a bye week too.
It was. But they lost because they didn't show up. They were be ready to play from the outset.
We didn't even get to talk basketball today. I want to find out some of the things you learned there at SEC Media Days. I'm sure you didn't learn that much, but I mean, I know.
Did you see what John Calipari had to say about A&M?
What did he say?
Basically, he said Buzz Williams should be walking around smiling.
Oh,
yeah.
I like it, Coach Cal. Thank you, OB. Appreciate you. When we come back, Tom Hart, SEC Network, Billy Liucci for a couple hours. That and more is TexAgs Radio. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline. Tom Hart from the SEC Network and ESPN joining us. Tom, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. How are you? How was your weekend?
It was all right. It was, I stayed away from sports, if that's even, I didn't stay away completely. I just didn't, watch an entire game at all. It was more like keeping up with the game for a few minutes, then going to the next game for a few minutes, then getting away, then coming back. That was kind of how baseball, college football, NFL, that's kind of how I went, because when my team struggles, I don't know if I can go all in on games. It just kind of puts me in a bad mood.
You gave yourself a reprieve. I certainly appreciate that. How's everybody feeling about Game 7 tonight?
Well, our office is half and half, right? Got a bunch of Ranger fans, a bunch of Astros fans. I think both fan bases, at least in this office, feel that their team's going to lose. That's how it feels. Like every Astros fan, it's over. Rangers fans, there's no way. It's weird because on social media, it's mean towards each other. In this office, very nice towards each other.
Well, very nice because they know they're going to see the same people the next day. And they already have the defeatist attitude, we can't win this thing. We're sending a 48-year-old to the mound, even though he's a warrior god. What is Max Scherzer going to do? Or the other side, our best relievers suspended for this game. You don't want to talk trash if there's a sense of impending doom. So I can understand the niceties.
It's I'll say this, regardless, this Astros run has been remarkable for me to be up close for a big stretch of it. And what the Rangers have been able to do in a year, it keeps fan bases thinking it is possible if we have a great offseason to have this kind of year.
Yeah, it matters. Players matter. Roster makeup matters. Spending money to get the best team you can on the field absolutely matters. It's fun. Embrace it. It's a great time of year for baseball, man. It's so much fun.
So, Tom, I am not a Rangers fan. I'm an Astros fan. That being said, I did live some time in the Metroplex, so I have a little bit of love for the Rangers, a little bit. And I was a Jose Canseco diehard, so of course and Palmeiro, so of course I kind of liked it. I had Rangers hats when I was a kid.
Did you ever have a fly ball bounce off of your head and go over the wall?
Yeah, in many sports, not just baseball. Just if you ever see me play soccer, you'll say, "Oh yeah, that guy has no coordination there, buddy."
Oh, that's great. And now the football, now A&M's going to be back on the field in a game that I think matches up really well for the Aggies, really, really well. This is an opportunity for a get-right game, I think, for Jimbo's team.
Yeah, I agree with you. And my thing about this game is, look, where we think A&M should be as opposed to where they are, they should still be considerably better than South Carolina. They should treat South Carolina the way they treated Auburn and the way they treated Arkansas. Yes, and I think they will for a number of different reasons. For those that watched South Carolina against Missouri this weekend, it was evident to see their weak link right now. Well, they have a host of them, but their weak link is on the offensive line. They've got 4 offensive linemen that have been injured right now. They have 10 that have been injured since the start of camp. Missouri had 6 sacks on Saturday. 4 of those came on third down. So what is A&M's strength? What is South Carolina's weakness? Spencer Rattler will be running for his life, I think, multiple times. So how does South Carolina counter that? I was thinking this morning, they've run some Wildcat offense. They put a running back there at times. They're going to have to get creative to try and alleviate some of that pressure. But they can't, in my mind, they can't keep that pressure off for 4 quarters. Tom, what do you think a bye week can do for a team that knows they're close but isn't winning the close games? And, I mean, this has been a 3-year stretch, by the way. This is not like just this year. This has been 3 years of these close games, for the most part, going the other way. Well, it could do a lot of things. I mean, if you're a bad team, it's a chance to reinvent yourself and simplify and strip down and say, okay, let's lose all the stuff we thought we could try and tackle back in the spring or the summer or in August, and let's just boil it down to what we're good at, and let's lose all the nonsense. You also have an opportunity, obviously, to get guys some reps with the bye week and what you do with the previous weekend. Like, hey, man, here's a couple freshmen or even a couple of seniors that have been buried on the depth chart. Let's see what they can do. But I think it's also reassessment of your goals. Like, what's in front of us right now? What are we playing for? And what's the motivation over the final third of the season, or quarter of the season at this point? And so all of that can be – and the other thing you learn, by the way, and my eyes have really been open to this for the elite teams, is you learn
what kind of motivator your coaching staff is or your head coach is. There was a camera in the locker room, the South Carolina Georgia game a month ago, and Kirby is a much better motivator than I imagined. Better communicator than I thought. Saban obviously is great at it. He had a great, mid-game message to his guys against Tennessee on Saturday. It was basically, who do you want to be? You want to be the team that goes out there and loses to Tennessee, or you want to go out there and impose your will? And I think if you're at this level and you're a coach at this level, you have some of those speeches in your back pocket and some of those messages, and here's the time to put them to play.
One of the things I think it can do for this A&M team in particular is maybe simplify things a little bit for Max Johnson, because you're going one direction with Connor, and you try to adjust throughout the year, but this gives you a little bit more time. Like, this is what Max is really good at. Max, this is what we're going to need you to do. We need you to get rid of the ball quicker. I think he could maybe benefit the most.
100%. Yes. And by the way, the opposition Saturday morning is a great example of that from last year. They went into the last 4 games of the regular season. Spencer Rattler was at a loss. I mean, he was that meme from Hangover where all the equations are floating around above Allen's head, and he's completely lost and can't figure. That's what Spencer Rattler was in the previous system, in the pro-style offense. We had a lot of responsibilities on his plate because he'd only run the air raid, not just in Oklahoma, but even in high school. So Shane Beamer went into the last month of the season last year and said, why do we have 90 plays on this call sheet? Like, he's not comfortable running 90. We're not good at 90. Let's take that down to 60. All right, let's simplify. And let's make sure of those 60, he's got like 10 to 20 that he really loves. And they did that, and they played to his strengths, which, I mean, the quarterback's the most important position on the field. You find out what they're good at, you play to those strengths, and then you become much more efficient. You may not be as explosive, right? I mean, you may have to give up some explosiveness for efficiency because you can't be as creative, but that's fine. Like, let's put Max in a position where we can get rid of the ball quickly. And how does he do that? He makes quick decisions because we know pre-snap where we think we want to go, and we can eliminate the spots that we're not going to. We're not even going to look over there. All right, let's just focus on 1, 2, boom. And let's get the timing down where we can get it out and let our guys go make plays. And yeah, South Carolina did a great job of that. They come out the gate. They hung at the end of the year. They hung 63 on Tennessee. They beat Clemson. There's 2 huge wins for that program, which, by the way, is one of the reasons they had good momentum coming into this season, which is now gone. But that can certainly carry you through an entire offseason if you manage it right.
Tom, who do you think has been the biggest disappointment in college football? I mean, A&M feels like it, but there were some people who didn't believe in them. A lot of people believe in USC. A lot of people believe in Clemson. Who in your eyes has been?
Well, I think those programs that you just mentioned, they've all been disappointing on different levels, right? I mean, for A&M, it's the expectations with the coaching contract and with Petrino coming in, and we could look different. With Clemson, it's, hey, we warned you, like, we saw this coming. Your unwillingness to get in the transfer portal and become better, your stubbornness as a head coach and as a program to stick with things that aren't working is going to cost you eventually. And it has. And with USC, it's kind of this karma, like, all right, you went and stole your quarterback. You don't put much effort into defense. Hey, trust us, that's going to come back to bite you, and it has. And I think that all of those scenarios are frustrating from a fan base and from a big picture perspective because people saw them coming. Like, there were red flags about all of these situations. And therefore, that's where it really becomes disappointing. On the flip side, that's what makes each of those programs special. A&M, Clemson, USC, people have bought in, they've invested, they believe in it. They want it to be really good. You don't hear about Illinois or Purdue or Kansas having a terribly disappointing season because the expectations are never there and the buy-in is never there on a large scale to begin with. So I think that all has to be taken into perspective.
How about Arkansas? I didn't expect them to be that good this year, but I don't think I expected what they're going through. Is it 6 straight? Whatever it is, it's bad.
Every weekend I get a couple of texts or phone calls from my buddies who like to put a couple bucks on games. And it's usually like, hey, man, the gold sheet's saying this. Well, what do you think? And I warn them all at the beginning of the season. I can't bet. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like sometimes I have too much information. I cannot pick a winner to save my life. But this weekend, I made an exception. I said, Will Rogers is out. Arkansas is desperate for a win. They're at home. They came to me with Arkansas, and I said, yeah, I think I would get behind that horse. And they scored 3 points. I mean, KJ Jefferson, I think is a really good quarterback. You watch them play, they don't have a single skill position player who can get separation. And under their previous offense, they just fired Dan Eno Sunday night. The offense has been absolutely deplorable. It's been very I don't want to say basic because that's insulting, but under Bryles, they took some chances. They were different. They had a different personality. And even if they didn't have skill position guys with breakaway, pull away speed or ability, they at least put the defensive positions where they had to make decisions and guys were coming open. You can't just play pitch and catch with guys that can't make anybody miss a tackle. And play after play, Zach Arnett just kept everybody back. They kept the ball in front of them. Arkansas couldn't move the ball. I was just stunned by how inadequate they were offensively. And it's a move that Pittman had to make. They're not going to make a bowl. They'd have to win out to make a bowl. And he knows that his job is on the line. I don't know if anybody out there cares more for their school and the state and the program like Sam Pittman does for Arkansas. And it truly hurts him for them to be in this position. And now, they're going to have to pull something out in the back half of the season to save his job, which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, 0-5 in conference play, 2-6 overall. Do you see them bringing him back, though? Do you think they have enough fight at the end of the year? I haven't really looked at the end of their schedule. It looks like they've got the bye week, then Florida, Auburn, FIU, Missouri. There's a couple wins possible in there.
Yeah, Auburn and FIU, certainly the ones you point to first. I would bring him back. I mean, I think that when you're a program like Arkansas, you aspire to be among the elites, right? But the reality is, and people don't want to hear this, the reality is that if you can win 9 games every couple of years, that's great. And they did that 2 years ago. And if you let him go, well, now all of a sudden you just pulled the plug and the drain, and the bathwaters get completely out before you can fill it back up again. No, I think I know he wants to be there. He's passionate. He's a good coach. He's a great recruiter. People love working for him. So the Enos hire was uninspired. He's going to have to find a better offensive coordinator to come in to make some decisions. But no, if I were Arkansas, I would say, hey, look in the mirror, realize who you are, realize what this man has done. And if he can repeat that, you're not going to find anybody better. So why take a risk?
I'm not saying that this Tennessee-Bama game gave me more evidence that Nick Saban is the GOAT. Like, we've got plenty of evidence there. But, man, even on a year they're supposed to be bad, this team, it doesn't make me feel better about A&M losing to them by any stretch, but they just find ways to win. Other teams find ways to lose. They find ways to win, man.
There's they do a lot of unique things at Alabama, but one of the coolest things they do is on his coach's show, which they record after the game, Saturday night or first thing Sunday morning. He gets to the telestrator and he breaks down a play, the play of the game. And I encourage everybody to look it up from this past weekend. It was the scoop and score in the second half. And you get, by the way, if you're a high school coach, if you're a middle school coach, if you played high school football, you don't have to be an elite football mind to appreciate this, but you can always learn from the guy. And he breaks down the scoop and score they had on the strip sack and how it started with their cornerback, really their safety, Malachi Moore, applying pressure to the wide receiver on the perimeter and what that did in coverage and how that allowed the strip sack. And, man, hearing that dude talk ball can inspire anybody. But once again, what did I say earlier? At halftime, he sent the message, who do you want to be? You want to be the team that's down 27 at half and lose to Tennessee 2 years in a row? Or are we going to come out and make some plays? And they did. Right off the bat, they got the ball. I think it was their third play. They scored. They had 3 explosive passes in the second half. They had the strip sack. Defense was sensational. He's the GOAT because we know It's not their most talented team. Certainly not the most talented quarterback. Skill position guys, like they're not a bunch of first rounders out there, whether that's in the backfield or wide receiver. And he's making it work. Now there's a ceiling on that team, I think. We talk about SEC championship win or even making it to Atlanta, what they have left, and maybe getting into the playoff. I think there's a ceiling when they go up against explosive teams with elite players. But as a game day coach and a tactician, I don't know we've ever seen anybody better.
What about Tennessee? Going into the A&M game, it was like, I still don't know. Now, they've had 2 good games. I mean, they lost to Bama, but I think Joe Milton looked like he improved a little bit from what we saw against A&M, where that offense didn't do much. Do you buy them as the number 2 team in the SEC East?
No, I don't. I think they should be, and they could be. By the way, you look at what Georgia has remaining, starting with Florida this weekend in Jacksonville. There's probably a loss lurking for them. I mean, if they play as they have played to this point in the season, I wrote down their strength of schedule. The first 8 weeks, they're 109th strength of schedule in college football. The rest of the way, with 4 straight against top 35 teams, number 7 strength of schedule for Georgia. So they've got to get better fast. But no, I think Missouri has proven that they're the number 2 team in the East right now. They have playmakers. They have a quarterback who's punching above his weight, playing great football, where Joe Milton's doing the opposite. And they got Luther Burden, who might be the best receiver in the SEC right now and one of the top guys, in terms of NFL talent going forward. Tennessee just has too many question marks for me. And we knew they were going to lose a lot, not just with Hendon Hooker, but with Jalen Hyatt and who they had on the perimeter. And they still have a really good ground game, but his offense is different when they can't stretch you vertically, and they're having a hard time hitting this place.
Last thing for you. What about Ole Miss? You buying them yet?
Yeah, I'm buying them. We've got them this weekend against Vanderbilt. They've got a real chance down the stretch. The Bama game was disappointing for them for the second straight year, and to me, I was wondering where that offense was, and I thought maybe Bama's defense is better than we give them credit for. Good, they just dismantled Auburn, and the honeymoon seems to be over for Hugh Freeze. So I don't know how much we can take from that game, but I think Ole Miss has the pieces, especially on the offensive side. Some of the wide receivers are banged up, but they've got a ton of playmakers over there.
Tom, I appreciate it, sir. Talk to you next week.
Hi, Dave. Be good.
Thanks,
Enjoy
man.
Game 7 tonight.
Thank you. We'll do. Thank you. Tom Hart there on the hotline. Appreciate his time. Set a break. I think Billy will be in studio when we come back. If not, we'll get him on the phone. Right now, we're talking about the Charge Apparel, Aggie-owned, purpose-driven apparel brand. Check out the maroon polo. Check out all the polos, but the maroon one's the most recent one I got. I need to wear it this week at some point, maybe game day. It's awesome. You'll love it. It fits perfect, no matter what kind of it is. A fitted look, but it fits everybody, right? You can tall, short, skinny, the other side, as I like to say, whatever you may be, they're going to find the right fit for you, and you're going to love the way the material's second to none. It's fabulous. It's what all the top brands are using, right? Like the Lululemons of the world, they use this type of fabric. Charge Apparel is that kind of company that thinks about Aggies, because they're an Aggie own company, right? Got 2 guys that not only went to A&M, met in the core, Travis and Tucker, but beyond that, they decided after they went to the military, they separated from there, let's do the Charge Apparel as a way to pay homage to our veterans, right? And they partner up with groups that focus on mental health initiatives for veterans, right? And Ode to the 12th Man, 12% of their total sales dedicated to those organizations. You want to check it out. I think you're going to love it. They got really cool things planned for it. They want to find out what the charge in your life is. Find them at thechargeapparel.com. Again, that is thechargeapparel.com, or on Instagram, The Charge Apparel, or on X, The Charge Brand. All right, we are back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Probably have the crew at Bryan Broadcasting call up Billy Liucci here in a little bit. But before we do that, Nick, we got something fun going on Friday, don't we?
Yeah, well, earlier this year we had a road show at the Angry Elephant, and y'all were out there. The final countdown was out there. Billy, it was fun time. OB was out there. Lots of people came out and hung out with us there, got some brunch, coffee, all that good stuff. And we're doing that again this Friday at that same Angry Elephant in South College Station. So it'd be awesome if all of y'all could come out there. If you're coming into town early, maybe come a little bit earlier, hang out with us. CC Creations will be there selling some TexAgs merch for you. And maybe we'll give away some TexAgs coffee there. How does that sound, David?
Well, I think we need to ask management, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
We will ask management about that, no doubt, and see if we can do that. But CC Creation, some shirts, so it'll be a good time.
And more of the TexAgs crew is going to be out there this time. We'll have Bronny out there chatting it up with y'all. OB, obviously. Billy will be there, so should be a lot of fun.
Look, as I know there's been reason to be sad about football. I get all that, right? Like I understand all of that. But imagine a scenario where they take care of business in a major way, and now you start feeling, all right, I know that many of you don't want to believe that they can win on the road. They'll never win on the road again. This team is fully capable of winning these games that they've lost on the road. I mean, even South Carolina last year, like the mistakes that we saw in those games, like they can be corrected. I'm going to simplify it all. Like to me, it comes down to like one thing: just block better. Block better. We're gonna throw better. We're gonna run better. We're gonna be fine. And I'm not putting it all on the offensive line. Look, it's the coaching staff. It's the line. It's the players having a little pride and stepping up their game. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just one thing, right? It's not just one thing. But if I could fix one thing, that's where I start. I absolutely start with doing that right off the top. To me, it becomes super simple. You do that, and you give Max a little time to throw the ball, and I think we're going to have a much better result there. I know that Friday in the notes you guys had, Nick, you guys talked a little bit about how A&M has done after bye weeks. I don't know how much we've kind of gone into that here on the show, but since joining the SEC, 7-7 after a bye week, 5-3 under Jimbo Fisher. So those are the numbers of A&M entering the bye week or after the bye week. And with that, Billy Liucci is here with us. Hello, Billy.
Smells like South America in here, or Uganda.
Coffee beans?
Yeah.
Yeah? You learn a lot about
coffee? I've always referred to Jones as Coffee Breath Jones. And
you have.
Now he's going to really take it to another level, apparently. Speaking of, I'm going to try some during the break. 4 times radio station called in a minute just now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Pretty rough morning, Louie.
What? We said call Billy and
call Billy.
Did you just ignore?
I was on the other line.
Oh, okay.
I'm pulling up.
Well,
what's up?
Hey, buddy.
Yoda, what'd you think of the weekend of college? Look, I'm interviewing you. What'd you think of the weekend college football, pro sports, and the fights? David?
I did watch fights. I did. So this is what I said this earlier, Billy. If you heard, I apologize. I paid attention to sports, but I don't go all in when my team struggles. Like it's weird.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like
tough.
So I'll watch for a little bit and then I exit.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
We have a little. I wouldn't call it a watch party, but we picked up some sandwiches. Went to a friend's house or manor. It's not even a house; it's a manor. Lives by himself in an unusually large house. Weird, actually, but we go over there and we're watching the Astros Rangers, and it's all Astros fans. Everyone from Houston. Everyone in there is from Houston, or lives in Houston, or is from Houston. And you know how it is. It's baseball. It's a long game, and but. Come to find out late, there's a key strikeout. I think he's when he struck out Dubom. That strikeout there, that was a probably, I think, the at-bat, that ruined it for the Astros. And they had him, and then I guess you bring in Singleton to walk. I mean, I felt like that guy had a zero. Like, we could have trotted Zane up there and would have had as good a chance of getting a hit. But when that at-bat happened, one of our buddies, like, you could tell he was real nervous. And, okay, well, it's a big at-bat. He jumped up and like, yes. When the Ranger, was it Leclerc? But, yeah. No, it wasn't. It was the other guy. When he struck him out, whoever it was, yes. He's got a large bet on the Rangers, and it's this defeatist.
Houston
attitude. He bets against A&M a lot, too. Okay. Like, if the spread's such that the Aggies can win, but if they lose, then he feels a little better. Yeah. But if he loses the bet, he's perfectly happy, but there's also a world where he could do both, a little window. So he's that kind of Aggie, and that's the problem, I think, with this whole mindset. And he's brought it to the Astros apparently, because bet against them, that just expecting them to lose, because it's the same reason Olin and the Ranger fans expect to lose. It's like this battle of defeatist mindsets. And it's funny because the only people that aren't defeatist, and I'm watching this play out on social media, are the media members in Dallas and some of them in Houston, but especially Dallas. And I don't hate it. They're aggressive, psychotic fans of the Dallas, all of them, of the Dallas sports teams. The Rangers, the Stars, they openly root and go crazy. And you guys in Houston did that stuff too with the Astros and Texans and Rock. And it's funny to me because the media generally, and on social media, I catch this so much, even though we are TexAgs.com. Do we still say .com or just say TexAgs? I think we just say TexAgs. Nobody does .com anymore, do they?
I don't think so.
www. We're
www.texags
/forums.
TexAgs Coffee. Sorry.
So, yeah. So these people, though, they do this thing where, oh, you can't be biased. You can't, we're in the media. We don't. But it's like all bets are off if it's like there's just some line that you can say, well, I'm radio or we're news.
Print guys act they're not biased.
Yeah, the print guys act like they're not, and they are too, because they all want their local teams to win, unless a coach has hurt their feelings. There's always that. If the head coach hurts your feelings in the media,
now you want them to lose.
You go the other way. And people accuse me, they're like, oh, you're best friends with all. No, not always. But if the coach hurts their feeling or offends them, oh my God, I'm offended now. I've got it out for you for the next 3, 4, 5 years. It's just funny. Where is that line? And I'm watching these media members just talk trash to fans, and I'm here for it. Like, I like it. I'm like, just lean into it. It's fun for Dallas. If I'm covering the Rangers, this is a badass fun time. Same with the Astros. This Game 7 thing is going to be incredible. And somebody, I think it was my man Landry Locker down in Houston, who I really like. Was he and who? Wait, oh yeah, him and Lopez. I was like getting them, but he tweeted, this is the biggest single game sporting event ever
between Houston and
Dallas. And it's got to be, right? Because Cowboys and Texans have never played a truly meaningful game other than like the Texans' first game. The Cowboys and Oilers never met in a Super Bowl or obviously a playoff.
Rockets and Mavs in the playoffs a couple times, but not major stakes.
It was never like, I don't think it was ever Western Conference Finals, and it certainly wasn't a Game 7.
Right.
100%. No,
there was a Game 7 in 2005.
But it wasn't Western Conference Finals,
it was
right?
the semis.
Okay, so now the second biggest. There's nothing bigger than what's about to take place between Dallas and Houston. It's one game for the World Series tonight. That's it. Winner goes to the World Series. Pretty damn epic, and I don't know what to expect. I feel like the Rangers completely took back momentum in that one. But who knows with these two pitchers tonight what's going to happen? And the Astros have been so bad at home. It boggles the mind. You can't figure it out. You can't explain it. I was at 3 of the 4 World Series losses back in when they lost to the Nationals, where every single road team won a game. I believe that was the first time that's ever happened in a 7-game series. And you know, for the Astros fans, hopefully it doesn't repeat itself. Rangers fans are sitting here going, well, let's go. So I feel like Texas totally reclaimed momentum. I don't know, though. Garcia hits that home run. I'm a big karma in sports guy because if you watch sports, you see it too damn much. Sure. I've seen it work against A&M. I've seen it work against A&M opponents in the past that get too ahead of themselves. I think it worked against the Astros in that national series. I always say Bregman, from the moment he carried that bat all the way, and I don't have a problem with Garcia, you know, flossing and celebrating and taunting after home runs. I like that. I like the fact that all the Astros fans hate that guy. I like the fact that Rangers fans love him.
Yeah.
I like the way Yankees fans feel about Altuve, and now Ranger fans too. That's what makes baseball fun. And if you take out that flair and the dramatics, and it's honestly like the Latin American players and what they bring to the game, and with that style and that swag and those celebrations, that sport can get a lot less entertaining real quick. So that home run last night, I'm like, okay, if you're going to lose like that and let that guy be the bad guy, and that's going to be – who's going to rip the heart out of the other fan base tonight? Is it Altuve or Garcia? But like when Bregman carried that bat all the way to first base, go look at what happened to him and the Stros the rest of that series. Yeah. I'm telling you, I do think that is something to put a little asterisk by.
We should probably hit a break here, but let me just, since we're on the Astros-Rangers tip, is Altuve a guaranteed Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
Even though there's sports writers that are anti him?
They're full of it. And
why is buzzer still a thing I get? Like, why do people do that?
He's a lay-down Hall of Famer, and his numbers are going to be there when he's done. You know, he's still got a few years left. His numbers will be there. But it's just, of his generation and his era,
the best at his position.
He's the best at his position, but he's also one of the best in the history of this game in the postseason. There's he's literally right there with Jeter and a couple of those legendary Yankees. You know, I don't know if it's Yogi Berra or Mickey Mantle, whatever, but it's Altuve, Jeter, you know,
Reggie?
Better than Reggie Jackson, you know, Manny Ramirez.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very short list. He's a top 5 postseason player all time, without question. And the fact that he's not considered, he's got power, but I don't think you call Altuve a power hitter.
No, you're right.
Based on his number. I mean, I don't think he'll get, maybe he can get to 300 career home. What's he at? Maybe. But he's not a 500 home run hitter like Manny Ramirez is, who hit like 550. But in the postseason, this dude goes up there and he's 5'5" and he swings the bat like he's Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Or Barry Bonds in the postseason. So he's incredible. I think he's a lay-down Hall of Famer. When we come back, I want to talk about Myles Garrett, and if we're talking enough about the fact that I believe Texas A&M has 3 players that are going to wear gold jackets active right now in the NFL, and we're getting to watch them. 3 players at the same time from the same school that are going to be wearing gold jackets one day. And I think there's actually very little doubt on any of them outside of Garrett, you know, needing, you know, he's still young enough that needs to stay healthy. But I saw that number the other day. He got to 82 sacks at the youngest age of 28.
Yep, faster than Reggie.
Anyone faster than Reggie White. Now, when you start saying stuff like that, now, okay, Miles, Vaughn, Mike, they're all 3 going into the Hall of Fame. They are. I mean, I understand that maybe Mike has a little more work to do.
He may have to wait a little bit longer.
But he's still hitting. I mean, I don't think he'll have to wait longer. I mean, I think he'll be an early, not a first ballot, but an early ballot guy. But the numbers Mike will accrue if he plays even 5 more seasons. Miles, and I think Vaughn's already established himself. He's right there with the 2 Super Bowls.
Altuve 209 career home runs.
Yeah, so I don't think he might get to 300 depending. I mean, does he have 5 more years or does he play 8? You know, who knows with him.
All right, we'll hit a break here. Right now we're talking about Milliken Reserve. They've got great neighborhoods there at Milliken Reserve, not like your typical subdivisions. They're based entirely in the Brazos Valley landscape and heritage out there, closely linked to the land with deep Texas roots, and there's no place like Milliken Reserve. You got the creek out there, awesome area, 10-acre wooded estates throughout expressions of their owner's own vision. You got the hollow homes and private gated village connect directly to nature trails, and you got the meadows. The homes at the meadows are responsive for the natural surroundings, following the lead of early local Texas agriculture. It's a great place to check out, rooted in that Texas soil. And you know, when you go to Milliken Reserve, the whole idea is, yeah, you can live there, which is a great thing to do. You can go there and visit and check out the way they connect families to nature and to each other through that extensive network of trails throughout a wooded landscape. You've got all the animals you can imagine, the white-tailed deer. You've got the songbirds, the rabbits, the turtles out there. Go be a part of it. Go hiking there. Go biking. Go canoeing. Go kayaking. Go to the equestrian trails, the evening yoga, the summer camps, the music festivals, the farmer markets, and the farm tours. The website is millikenreserve.com. Again, millikenreserve.com. We're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jules Rollo Insurance Studio. I'm going to go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center because I know Jared's got, there's this text from Cuervo Ag. You can read it, and I'll respond to it.
Cuervo Ag says, David, are you saying we need to execute better to win those road games?
Yeah, look, I know a lot of people get annoyed with that response from Jimbo. He's not wrong. But what do you have? I guess the follow-up to that is, well, what do you got to do to execute better when it becomes a pattern? Yeah, they got to execute better. Yes. In several areas. In certain areas, they're executing great. Look, I believe the defense has taken such a huge step in the right direction, and more than the right direction. They're really good defensively. They're not going to be the 85 Bears, right? They're not going to stop everybody at everything. But the way they get after the quarterback, I know Tennessee did a really good job spreading them out and able to run the ball. And there were stretches in that game where A&M was able to stop the run. But overall, you can't give up 230x yards, whatever it was, and expect to still think you can stop every running game out there. But look, they do need to execute better. No doubt about that. There was a question earlier, Billy, that came in from Cuervo Ag, or just, I was talking about if I could simplify one thing for Aggie football, what I would do, and I would just fix the blocking, which is a very simple way of saying if that was fixed, I don't think we have these issues. We can get into football after. I know you wanted to get into the Hall of Famers and start things off with Mike and the crew.
Oh, yeah, and just that was kind of it. We kind of went into it, but I was just thinking about that yesterday because it was like Myles Garrett Day in the NFL, and everyone's going crazy. It's been fun. Like early in the year, we had a couple of Sundays where it was Devon A-Chain Day,
yeah.
and Mike Evans has gotten a lot of run this year. It's kind of been – it's interesting, there towards the end of Tom Brady, and now he's got – it's almost like he's been, Baker Mayfield's realized this is my
guy,
lifeline. This is how I become, stay relevant in this league. But those three guys have gotten the most run this year. Von's coming back from injury, but with those 2 Super Bowls, Von has the Super Bowl MVP, all the Pro Bowl berths, all the sacks. Shoot, I would have thought Von would have a chance to win another one this year. Maybe he will, but I don't know what's going on with the Bills right now. Maybe it's just they need a healthy Von Miller, but and that's not quite it. They've got more issues than that, unfortunately. I say unfortunately. Bills fan, not really, but Von Miller fan, hell yeah. It's just wild to see, and I do think Shane Leckler eventually makes it in once the Ray Guy broke the seal for punters. I think once the committee starts really diving in, they'll realize it's actually Shane Leckler, not Ray Guy, that was the best. As of today, is the best NFL punter of all time. But to me, what this weekend was really about is Dante Hall.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people pay attention, to what's going on in the NFL besides the games on Sunday, but there was a special moment. I really tried to get up there to Kansas City to see it. I'm definitely planning to go to a game up there later this fall or in December. But the one I wanted to go to was yesterday because Dante got inducted into the Chiefs Ring of Honor. And what an amazing accomplishment. I talked to him late last week, and it was like, it was kind of the final feather in his NFL cap, and he was joking about it, but he was like, seriously, the Nimitz Hall of Fame, where he went to high school, Aldine Nimitz, the Texas A&M Hall of Fame, here, I think within the last couple of years, Dante went in, but maybe it was a while back, but the A&M Hall of Fame, and now the Chiefs, I believe it's Ring of Honor, Hall of Fame, whichever it is. He's a Kansas City Chiefs legend, officially, cemented his status permanently and forever. And he was telling me he was on the NFL Hall of Fame ballot this year. So I think that was the first time for him to do that. And now, while you could make a case and you could say who's the second best return man in the history of that league, right? I mean, that's an art. That's a debate I haven't gone and studied yet. I know there's Devin Hester and there's Dante Hall.
Yep.
Since I've been watching football, which is a long time now, I don't know if those aren't number one and number two on the list. I know Cribbs In a few years ago, I think after Dante, I forget his first name, but Josh Cribbs was really good. But damn, I mean, Dante Hall has to be in the conversation for second best ever. And again, it's like Leckler in that he's a specialist in that regard, even though he did some, pretty ridiculous things at wide receiver as well as the X factor. But as far as if you're talking about who are the best NFL return men in history, he's on a very, very, very short list. So who knows? But he was joking and saying, hey, I made the ballot. Like, I'm done. And he was sitting there with his young son, 4-year-old son, and saying, now I get to enjoy this. Like, this is – so it's awesome. I'm happy for him with Kansas City because like A&M, Kansas City, like that's like a college – and that's why I want to go to a game there. It's like a college environment. The fans are passionate.
Yep.
He still goes to damn near all their home games, I believe. He's a part of a family there, the Chiefs family, just like he is the Aggie family. So I think it's really cool. And like had a coach there like R.C. Slocum and Dick Vermeil, that meant the world to him, just like Bernice Simon did at Nimitz. For those listening, you guys remember Bernice as an Aggie, and then who went on to be a legendary Houston area high school coach. So pretty amazing, incredible career, if you think about it. He was such a overlooked recruit, had an ankle injury his senior year. He was committed to, I believe, Missouri, and A&M, and R.C. Slocum added him late. Always had that chip on his shoulder between, being so small a stature and then also overlooked as a recruit. Immediately, I remember the first time I saw him play, it was North Texas in the fourth quarter of like game 1 or 2 of a season at Kyle Field. They bring in this guy named Dante Hall, and you could tell immediately that he was different and had some massive plays at A&M. I think people forget, too, he's your starting tailback and 1,100-yard back on a Big 12 championship team, too. So congrats to Dante. We talk about Hall of Fame, all these things. There aren't many in the Ring of Honors or around the NFL. I mean, I don't know how many there are. I know Jacob Green, Dante, and then these 3 guys we talked about, plus Leckler, will eventually be. But right now, I don't think there are that many. That one's a pretty short list, too. So congrats, Pup.
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with a short one here in the 9 o'clock hour, then a full hour with Billy there on TexAgs Radio. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with other Aggies, you need to check out the Association of Former Students because they bring Aggies of all ages together during events held throughout the year. Marquee events like the Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, and Gathering welcome tens of thousands of guests, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of all those great attendees. All events offer a wide variety of digital and in-person options to promote your brand. Options include title sponsoring, naming, on-site presence and activation, and recognition in social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. If your business is ready to engage with other Aggies, you need to choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. That is sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We only got like a minute and a half
You
left.
missed the Zach Bryan concert.
I wanted to
We
go.
went.
Yeah, I wanted to go to that.
I was going to invite you. I remember you had Juan coming in town, so I didn't. That was why I called you like Thursday or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
I had an extra, and I was gonna just.
I kind of
It's
wanted
like, you
him
know
not
what?
to
I'm gonna
come.
bring my buddy Nuño because you would have loved it. He's, by the way, incredible in concert. And I went with like one of the guys that we rode with was like a Springsteen lunatic, and he kind of was like, man, he's got that vibe, that energy to him, like Springsteen or Garth Brooks, like just the showmanship of it, to just take a guitar and be able to grab and hold an audience for that long. He was badass. And
he wasn't classically trained. He just kind of figured it out.
And I don't know like his whole, by the way, I'm trying to learn how to play Creed on guitar, self-taught, just one song. I just want to play that. Dun, 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 dun. It might take me a year, but when I do, I'm coming in.
All right, we got a break here. It's TexAgs Radio, hour number 3 coming up next. We're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy's in studio for the remainder of the program. Billy, easy fixes versus hard fixes. When, in your experience covering this program through different regimes, how much can really be repaired, fixed, or refined during the bye week?
A lot of times I feel like one of the things I see fixed a lot, they can go back to fundamentals and just come out playing, I think, a crisper brand of ball. You can sometimes see that. It's funny with the bye week, though. When things are going good, you kind of sometimes don't want it if you're healthy. But coaches always, I think, want it because they're like, it's a grind. We need this. We need a week off. And I talked to a lot of the players. They're banged up. I think they'll come back. Because so few of those injuries they've suffered this year, unfortunately, the biggest one being, to the biggest player. It's the irony here is that they've been a pretty healthy football team this year. Really. I mean, not having Bryce against Tennessee last week really hurt, but you can kind of count on not one hand, but there's been, I think the Fathery injury is really affecting them right now because while Besantis would have made a very real push to Fathery because of Fathery's injury in the spring. But if Deuce would have been ready to play to start this year, I think there would have been a real battle there. But as Besantis has struggled, in the last couple of weeks against these elite pass rushers and defensive linemen, I think you would have had that. That would have been at the time that you see this veteran. If he hadn't already, who's to say that Deuce wouldn't have, a healthy Deuce doesn't go like this year. Certainly, and that's one of the things we're looking forward to this year. We're seeing an upperclassman, number 76, but now I think that one's hurting him. But really, they don't have many injuries, like significant injuries. I mean, they have the most significant, which is your starting quarterback. And it's like I've said, we can talk and we can argue and you can get mad if I say something that's not screamingly negative, or you can get mad if I say something that you think's too negative or whatever. People get their feelings hurt all the time. What I'm going to say is factual. If Texas A&M, even with their backup quarterback, Max Johnson, had played Bama or Tennessee without their starting quarterback, Texas A&M wins both of those games easily because they almost won them with the guy that started the season at QB2 leading the charge. And without a guy who was doing this and who most around the league thought was a rising star in this conference, a rapidly emerging star at quarterback in this conference. Now, the question is, can A&M win games moving forward with Max? I believe they can because they've been so close to doing it anyway. But I think they need to figure out, and this is where you go back to the bye, what are we doing with him that works? And I know the answer right now will be, nothing, because you scored one touchdown in your last game. And in your last 6 quarters, you've produced what, 13 points?
Yeah.
16 points in your last 6 quarters. That's pitiful. That's pitiful production. But you look at plays, and you look at plays that were there, and you look at plays that weren't blown up because you're asking your blockers to maybe do something that they physically can't do, or plays. But you look at plays where you had open receivers and you had Max, where it's either like you got to get rid of the ball and throw it to him, or this was just a blown block by this one guy, or it's a big play. You start to figure out what it is you can do well or what you're close to doing, and you just have to clean up like the stupid things that are hurting you. I would have opened up competition in the kicking game this week, and I wouldn't expect Bond or Constantino to not be out there, but I would have put pressure on them.
Sure.
And I would have made them kind of snap into like a little bit more of a competitive desperation mode of like, hey, I can't take this. Not that they are, but you need to go, I can't take this for granted. I've got to elevate the level of what I'm doing or I won't be doing it. I would have done the same thing at center with I would have had to sit down with Bryce and the snaps. I would have had to sit down with Max and shown him plays to say, hey, I know you're not getting time. I know. I would have had a real heart-to-heart, like, man conversation if I'm Steve Adazio with those linemen. And maybe Jimbo needs to have one with Steve Adazio.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's a lot you can do, I think, for the mental side of it during this break, and then also get healthy more than anything else. I think I was told this week, you know, between Anias, Noah, Evan, Moose, this is the healthiest that receiving core will have been since week 1. And I hear people, and I don't know who it was on the show, and I agreed with them. Maybe it was McGee or maybe it was somebody from the outside, but talking about a lack of separation that they're seeing from the A&M receivers. And I noticed that too.
I think it was few.
Some of it has to do with, you know, like Evan's been playing with a pretty, not significant enough, you know, like he's playing, but I mean, he could easily have sat a game since that Arkansas game. So now he got to finally do that this week. So he's slowed up. You know, speed, just pure speed, is not necessarily the strength of Anias's game. It's playmaking ability. It's what he's got up here. It's a feel for just a football player. You know, that's Anias. But and Noah's been hurt really since week 1. So if those guys are all healthy, and now you start playing the lesser defenses, I know Ole Miss is kind of that defensively. I think they're better than – I don't want fans to look and go, oh, Lane Kiffin, you know, dart and that spread you out, run it, spread it around, throw it around offense. Judkins, those guys. Don't just look at that and assume that they can't play defense. They're actually respectable on D, but I don't think they're on the level of Tennessee or Bama. Certainly not up front. And they're more of the Arkansas Auburn level.
Yep.
Where A&M did move the ball and score points, not for an entire game, half those games, which won't get it done in Oxford or Baton Rouge. But the reality is the last 5, including Abilene Christian, the last 5 defenses you face, you're going to see nothing like the last 2 you face. And probably Miami as well. I think you've played out of 12 games, you've played the 3 best defenses you'll face this year. I think Ole Miss is probably sitting at 4. I know Mississippi State had a good one Saturday against Arkansas, but throughout the course of the year, no. I think you've played the 3 best defenses you'll play. I think there's opportunity on the rest of that schedule that if your offense positions itself to get right, they can get right. They could also go out, and if they can't block Ole Miss, Mississippi State, or LSU, it doesn't matter what opportunities are there to be had through the air because you won't have time to do it. So that's my concern, but I also look at the opposition and go, with your defense, if it can stay outstanding and maybe even get better, which why not? Why not? Like what? They're getting Bryce back. Why couldn't they get better in the second half of the season? Right. A unit that's already been damn good. Why couldn't they get better? There's no reason why not, right? I mean, they're healthy. They should be trending up. The confidence should be at an all-time high. So if the defense continues to play elite and maybe even improve, and
why not the offense too then?
Well, I don't think they're going to get, because we've seen enough, right? I don't think they're going to be elite.
No.
But I think they can certainly, because of who they're playing,
yes,
and maybe because of a bye week, there is no reason to say that the offense can't get better. You can be skeptical, and I get it. They've given you plenty of reason to be skeptical, but I think there's no reason to assume that the defense won't continue to improve. I think that they've earned that credibility and they've earned that benefit of the doubt. They're midway through or 7 games through a 12-game season, and they're one of the best defenses in the conference. They should just keep doing this. Offensively, will they look better? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. But if you assume they can't, I think that's wrong as well. Because for 2 reasons. I do think having a couple weeks to regroup, and they needed it. It's a weird time to face the 2 best defenses that you were going to play back-to-back. And you're not playing those defenses moving forward. So, again, I think it's more like Auburn, Arkansas, Miami than it is Alabama, Tennessee, particularly Tennessee in Knoxville, where they're kind of like the average A&M teams over the years, where if you go into Kyle Field in College Station, you're going to get a much better version of A&M, particularly on defense, where they feed off the energy of that 12th man in the crowd. That's what Tennessee has kind of become in Knoxville under Heupel, if you look at their numbers. I saw one that since they were number 1 in the country in last year's first playoff ranking, they're like 1-4, 1-5 on the road, and their numbers are just significantly different. And that's what happens when you're pretty good but nothing special. And for Tennessee last year, that was them on defense. The defense goes up when you're playing at home. And so I think they played a good defense in Tennessee that was really good on Saturday. We'll see, but offense, if the offense doesn't improve, this team's ceiling is 7-5.
Yeah.
If they do improve, then I think even the road games get pretty damn interesting in a hurry.
What if they do score 30-plus against South Carolina? What does that do, morale, and then optimism heading into Ole Miss?
I think it's a morale thing more than anything. I think it's a confidence thing for probably that. That would mean that your offensive line, played at least a solid game. And I think it would mean the world to Max Johnson and kind of the chemistry between him and his receivers. And they have to have that, David, going into – you're not going to go into Ole Miss in game 9, and magically everything's going to come together on the road in that environment in Oxford. It's just not. You have to have some momentum, some confidence, and some kind of indication that maybe as coaches, as players, the group has kind of figured some things out with the time to kind of step back and regroup, recalibrate.
Yeah. I think this game, look, there's no get right games at this point. You just got to figure it out and move forward. But this game to me can have lasting effects.
Yeah.
For what is left.
Well, it could. In
both ways.
Yeah. It could have very lasting effect if you lose 11 a.m. to Shane Beamer in a boot, South Carolina, and Rattler, and a bad football team right now. I mean, they make plays, and they can look good in the passing game and even run the ball. Like, they do some things where you're like, oh, but they're not good. They're just not. And so A&M, I believe A&M should absolutely win, their 2 home games here. And the real question is, can they catch one of these 2 ranked teams on the road? And I think based on how teams – LSU's a hard one. I'm just going to shelve it for now. They're just not playing anyone.
For a bit. Yeah.
And they got by Missouri, which was a nice road win, and it was a shootout, and they were getting their teeth kicked in for a while there. And credit them for coming back. That was a big win. But, I mean, then they go Auburn, and then they go Army, and then they go bye. I'm shelving the LSU stuff till at least Bama, and by then we will have seen A&M play Ole Miss as well. So just looking at Ole Miss, and look, I mean, I know people are down on A&M. I know it's in vogue to sit there on social media and like make fun of yourself and go after anyone that has anything that doesn't start with fire Jimbo. I know that doesn't make you cool enough on social media. You're not edgy enough because we got to do these graphics and we got to show the Sumlin Jimbo and we got to, by the way, like Barrett Sallee and these people that keep doing that, if anyone says it was a mistake to change coaches on Sumlin, or if anyone says there was an ulterior motive and one coach is being treated differently than the other, shut your ass up. Pardon the cussing, because just stop talking. You're wrong. If you're trying to say, hey, nothing's really changed at A&M, that's fair. The record is what the record is, Leave it at that. Leave it at that. You've got to get things, and I saw someone saying, well, one coach got an extension, the other one didn't, raise an extension. No, that's actually just a straight up, it's not a lie because you just don't know any better, but you don't know what you're talking about in your attempt to make one guy a martyr and villainize the current guy, because that's what everybody tends to do a lot of times, not just around here, but everywhere in sports.
Yeah.
The reality is you look at the record and it's not good enough. That's the truth. That's the reality. There's no two ways around it. And if anyone sits here and says otherwise, then that's being just as disingenuous. In fact, it's worse, because that we do know. That's not a mistake of somebody just rushing to and not doing their homework. But if you're looking at Ole Miss and you're just going, it's not cool enough to sit here and say that is a game of the utmost importance and magnitude for Jimbo and A&M, you can't just go, they got no chance because they don't win on the road. Ole Miss at home, they beating LSU was really significant. I mean, they got absolutely shredded in that game. Just cut up and down and torched. And they scored, they beat Auburn this week 28-21, who A&M bludgeoned. They beat Arkansas a few weeks ago.
That was close, too.
I think it was, I don't know, what was it, 27-20, but it was a final possession game against an Arkansas team that A&M handled. And then they went to Alabama, and they played the Bama defense that we were pissed because they held A&M to 20 points and 3 in the second half, and it was ugly, and A&M should have and really should have and obviously needed to score more. But they scored 14 against that same Bama defense. So I don't think it's not like Ole Miss is a rolling ball of butcher knives. Now, if that game was here, I'd feel a lot better about it. But to me, I'm looking at this schedule. I'm going, they better win Saturday. I do care by how much, but they better win that football game. That's not a good football team coming in here. But unfortunately, they're not a good team with some pretty good offensive skill position players. Rattler, Leggett, some running backs, but not up front. That O-line's bad, and you talk about injuries. That they got an excuse. They can sit there and go, A&M lost Wigman, which was devastating. That group lost any and all ability to protect their very talented quarterback in Rattler. We saw it again Saturday in Columbia where Missouri just got after them. But, man, you've got to win that one. But then Ole Miss is one that just stands out to me because it is in such a position where if you got South Carolina at home and Mississippi State at home around it, and that team's dangerous too, State, because their defense and their talent, and their running back. But you've got 2 games that you need to win and should win and have to win at home around that one, and then you've got Abilene Christian. It doesn't solve the problems of the world. I think the only way that happens if you win out. But it will just take the focus away from Jimbo and the stability and all things around here, and it'll shift them somewhere else. Like this week, it's going to be Lincoln Riley. Yeah. Had Ryan Day lost, it would be Ryan Day. Like, it shifts it and moves it around. If James Franklin loses at home to Michigan, do people start going, will he ever win at Penn State? They're just always looking for something different. They actually had the arrows at Saban for a week or 2 after that Texas game, but credit them for winning a bunch of close games. They just keep winning really close competitive games. I don't know. The arrow almost went to Sark this week. I'm telling you, I know yours went out, but I think Texas fans need to really ask themselves in a different way what A&M people were asking about Jimbo and Lincoln Riley. Would those guys be better off? Sorry.
You want to have a break with that thought?
This coffee, the Arabica coffee, is doing a number on me right now, and it's good. But it made me not talk for a minute. Texas fans need to be asking themselves, would Sark be better served to get a trusted in-game play caller?
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's affecting. They should have – I wouldn't say they should have lost to U of H. They should have gone to overtime with the Cougars. And who knows? Maybe Texas stops them from the 9. I don't even want to say that. They had all they could handle with the Cougars. That was one of the worst end-of-game calls I've ever seen. When you've got Longhorn fans leaning into holding penalties, they held. Look, been there, done that. had a guy named Myles Garrett playing here. Watched him get held for a whole season. They don't call it. That happens. And if you didn't like that, wait till you get in the SEC when they're allergic to calling holding. But they had their hands absolutely full with U of H. Real chance they would have lost that game. My question for you, do you think Dana Holgorsen went for 2 there in the win or not?
Do I think he went for 2 or
Would
not?
he have had U of H scored?
I do think so.
I started to.
Just because I
he's
know Dana, yeah.
And he did it at West Virginia in Austin with Will Greer, and it was setting up for a repeat. Hell, it would have been really cool if he'd run the same exact play. But I started thinking, I'm like, I know it's Dana, but the real thinker of a coach there, I saw Malik Murphy looking real shaky when
you're
he
at
threw the
home,
ball.
too.
You're at home, and Quinn Ewers is hurt. And you know Texas was going to have to really lean into just quick bubbles. If he even threw those inaccurately, they were probably going to have to just lean 100% of the way into running the ball. I think even Dana, and I'm going to ask him this when the wound's not fresh, I think even Dana would have kicked that one and gone to overtime at home.
Because of the Ewers situation, it changes the equation.
Here's Quinn Ewers, okay? Here's what you can do if you're Texas in the Big 12, that their days of being able to do that moving forward are over. You've got Ewers is banged up. You were able to finish a game against the University of Houston, which you're 50 times more talented than. On the road where your fans probably outnumbered Houston fans. I wasn't there. If I'm wrong, fact check me. But probably at least 50-50, if not outnumbered, on the, quote, road. And you got to finish a game with a quarterback that looked a little bit overwhelmed against U of H. And now you play host to a bad BYU team this week. And then the rest of your schedule includes a really bad TCU team. It includes a
K-State?
A K-State team that seems to be getting better, but you get them at home, unranked. Maybe they're ranked today. And then what's the other one? There's another one. Iowa State, a really bad Iowa State team on the road. That's your finishing stretch. If you're in the SEC and you lose Wigman, you finish Auburn, not U of H. You just go Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee on the road. And then your closing kick includes knocking on the door of top 10 Ole Miss and the top 10 LSU team, both on the road. There's the difference. There's the difference in, what you can navigate. And when we talk about the SEC grind, there it is.
By the way, Chase in Houston, who's friends with Dana, says Dana would have gone for 2. So
yeah, I'm buddies with Dana too, Chase. We know, and I know you were on the sideline there. I think he would have. But because of the injury, I'm like, I'd be interested to see. Yeah. Like, that's where it's like, how easy are those short yardage situations coming for you leading up to that? Because to me, U of H was having a hard time getting those yards. You heard Holgorsen say they have the best D tackles, in his opinion, in the country. I think A&M, could have a case there too. But Texas, they're a couple badasses in there. That's the strength of their defense. Look, they threw one really clever design on a 4th and short or 3rd and short later. They had another one where they're having to throw. Quarterback was having to move. I think you were asking a lot. They couldn't convert that one. I would have kicked it.
All right, we'll hit a break here. Right now we're talking about Heritage Films. That is Chance McClain's company. They make documentary films about families. They do documentary films about family ranches, family businesses. They do it all. And they also do the Year Flicks, which we'll start there, actually, because the Year Flicks is these 20-minute videos. They're 20-minute videos that are more for the younger people in your family, right? You can do your middle school age kids, your high school age kids, your college age kids, right? You document in a Q&A form 20 minutes about their likes, their dislikes, what they're into, real fun kind of videos. And then you can do different chapters, right? So you do freshman year, you do sophomore year, you do junior year, and then you do the senior year. And it becomes like this awesome little storytelling time where you see where your kid has grown and the things that they've evolved into and how their major changed and, what their first day at A&M was like, whatever it may be. A lot of Aggies are jumping on this. So that's the Year Flicks through Heritage Films. You can also do the Heritage Film, which we've talked about for a couple years here, which are these documentary films about families, right? So if your grandfather's got a cool story to tell, even if you don't think it's that, they're cool. Everybody's story is cool. And then you watch these movies together as a family, and it just becomes such great bonding, great experience, really emotional time. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. It's Heritage Films. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. What'd you think of Arkansas getting rid of Dan Enos? They go into the bye week. They've lost 6 straight games. They are a train wreck of train wrecks. KJ Jefferson, a guy who could have probably gone into the draft, and I assume he can still go in the draft, but his stock has certainly plummeted. A lot of things going wrong there for Arkansas and Sam Pittman.
Yeah, and I think that's going to preserve Sam Pittman for another year, making that move with Enos and lopping him off. Hey, I give the people at Arkansas or Pittman, whoever it is, credit. You make a bad hire, a terrible hire, you recognize it, you adjust, you make the move. That is not easy to do. When you tell someone, hey, uproot, come here, work with me, this will be fun, I believe in you, we'll win, bring your wife, bring your kids if you have them, bring your family, and then not even one season in, you have to make that call and say, hey, I got to fire you.
It's not working.
And it's either Pittman saying I have to do it, or it's understood that, hey, I got no say in this anymore. You're fired. Like, either way, it's not good. It's not fun. But it's what has to be done sometimes in this sport, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I feel bad for the people involved, but it's just the way it is. And these dudes, they make a lot more money than 99% of the people that listen. And, you know, I've got a friend that was laid off from their job this past week. You know, like, that's real world stuff too. But then there's these, you know, when you get 2 months of severance pay or something, where these coaches have these massive buyouts, even assistants, that like, hey, you're getting paid. If you do nothing for the next 2 years, you're getting paid your salary. Guaranteed, all of it. You know, so it's not fun, but it is what it is, and it's the profession, it's the nature of the business. And that offense was horrific and getting worse. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It was really getting worse, and it was nosediving, and it looked hopeless there in Fayetteville. And to score 3 points in an entire SEC game is brutal, especially when you're doing it against a team that's not very good in Mississippi State. So with a quarterback like KJ Jefferson, they've got just no one at receiver that can play, and their O-line's terrible. I saw people wondering if A&M, they're talking about Sam Pittman to A&M. First of all, Pittman, I don't believe he's getting fired, nor do I think Arkansas needs to realize that guy's a fit. You help him how he can. Believe he's only 4 years in. He had the needle moving up even before this year. People around the conference and country thought he had the needle moving up. You and I we've always thought they're overrated. And I think Jimbo's not nice to us in the national media, so we don't like him, and he gets paid too much. But Sam Pittman's
he's nice.
And so they do this, and I'm not saying that Jimbo, you know, has, you know, won enough games for everyone to start throwing flowers at his feet or anything like that. But they definitely do this, and they do this with Pittman. He's never been as good as they say, but I think he's a fit there, and I think you give him a little bit more time, and maybe next year is his last shot.
Well,
like
without KJ next year.
Yeah, get your new coordinator. Yeah, and he's going to be up against it. But if he's done essentially nothing through 5 years, and I mean nothing, then if you're Arkansas, I think you look around and go, can we do better? Not this year, though. And even if he did, he's going to have a fat buyout, and I could see Sam Pittman going and sitting at that nice house of his on the lake and
just retiring.
Just saying, either retiring or at least relaxing for a year and going, you know what, I need to just enjoy time with my family. I like the guy. I root for him, except against A&M. I'm fully convinced he'll be back in Fayetteville next year.
And you got the dry fit scenario where
dry fit's awful.
Awful, and he hasn't fired his buddy either. And Alex Grinch.
Grinch?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the Speed D? The Speed D merchant? I mean, that was the Oklahoma fans thing, was Speed D. Oklahoma fans are a fascinating group for me, and I've got I have a lot of respect for that program under Bob Stoops, and what he did is incredible. Barry Switzer before him. You know, when I was in college, they weren't very good. But when I was a little kid, and then all through in this business, you look at OU, and they're like the standard.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a lot of respect for that program. People go, well, you know. I have a lot of respect for Bob Stoops and that program. I never was sold on Lincoln Riley when they all were. And now they're like laughing at USC. And you guys were all in on Lincoln when, to me, he was just living off the residuals of what Bob Stoops had built. Much like Les Miles did with Nick Saban and what he built in Baton Rouge. You can ride that wave on into shore. The problem is getting back out there and getting up on that board again. And these, I think Miles and Lincoln Riley were fraudulent. They weren't nearly as good as their early, because they were just handed greatness. They were handed culture. They were handed winners. They were handed all of that. But Oklahoma fans, I remember not the celebration, but they thought when A&M hired Jerry Schmidt, it didn't matter. Oh, they had too many injuries. He's past his time, and Lincoln Riley's bringing in a new guy, and we got Grinch and Speed D. My thing is, I want a fast defense, don't get me wrong. But when you brand your defense Speed D, all that tells me is finesse, no physicality,
Right.
not a lot of grown-ass men. Credit Oklahoma now and Brent Venables and a linebacker like Danny Stutzman and what they've turned Bowen into, in that secondary. Like, that's real defense. Physicality, hitting people in the mouth, and fast. That's called putting good players on the field. But speed D, OU fans went all in on that. They went all in on dry fit. They got mad at me for calling him dry fit. And God forbid you should criticize Lincoln Riley. And then they're also the same group that were ready to throw a parade when Jerry Schmidt was coming back, who I have all the respect in the world for that dude. I think he's personally and professionally a badass. But they were the ones that were saying he was no loss when he left, then he was coming back. They moved the target a lot there in Norman. I'm sure A&M fans would do the same, so I'm not totally going to bag on them about it, but I will point it out. Lincoln Riley, though, he is who I thought he was. I just thought he would recruit enough talent quickly enough
in that conference
there against that opposition.
Yeah.
But the one opponent that he don't have an answer for is Kyle Whittingham. And I loved his comment about the pig farmer quarterback. But Whittingham will come in here with that, and he'll just knock Lincoln Riley out of his dry fit shirt time and time again. He'll just beat his ass physically. And Utah did that. And this is Utah without Cam Rising. That's a bad loss for USC. Caleb Williams, I don't understand people calling him a generational QB. I think he's really damn good. But the way he loses sometimes, and with the talent he's had around him at OU and now at USC, if you don't have questions, if you're an NFL team drafted number one or that needs a core, if you don't have real questions about the bust potential there, and I guess I'd say there's a reason your team's picking number one.
All right, let's hit a break here. Right now, we're talking about Costa Vida. Go say hi to Holly out there. Her and her husband, they dreamed of owning their own business here in Aggieland. That dream came true when they decided to open up Costa Vida. She's been in the restaurant business forever, and you can tell when you go there because not only does she know what she's doing, she's just awesome. She loves and believes in the quality there of Costa Vida. It just tastes much better. It's laid-back, counter-served, Baja-inspired Mexican restaurant. The ultimate fresh Mex, made the way you love it, exactly the way you love it out there. Everything is fresh and scratch made. You can taste the difference where each ingredient does matter. And at Costa Vida, you can customize your meal. You've got all the entree options you want out there. If you're into the burrito, the salad, the enchiladas, the tacos, the quesadillas, the Baja Bowls, the nachos out there. You can choose your proteins out there. You can top it with your favorite house-made sauces. You can ask for samples and try out the roasted green chili tomatillo, the cilantro, the red enchilada, the salsa fresca, the mango salsa, honey habanero, tomatillo ranch, cilantro lime, vinaigrette, you name it. And, of course, they got the great specialties and the great drinks out there from limonada, horacha, you name it. Key lime pie for the desserts. And, of course, they're open in the morning, so if you have a morning meeting you need to go to, you could do it there. Get yourself a breakfast taco and enjoy time there at Costa Vida. Stay for lunch and for dinner out there. It is in South College Station. It is delicious. They're Aggie owned and operated. 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. Again, 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. It's Costa Vida. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy's here with us in studio as we're closing out the 10 o'clock hour here. About, 18 minutes left in the program. A couple things I wanted to get into, Billy. Let's see, where'd it go? I had a note for you I wanted to ask you. Well, I'll start off with a basketball thought. Dexter Dennis signing the two-way deal with the Mavericks. Love that guy. Yeah. I remember when he got to A&M thinking he just looks like an NBA player.
Yeah.
His size is, all that.
And then the mental side, he is a pro.
Yeah.
He was a pro when he got here. And people at Wichita State told us the same thing. That he's a professional mindset. He's incredibly mature. You heard a lot about his defense, and all those things came true here, along with a little more offensive game than I think he was advertised to have. And I think as he evolves as a pro, I think his offensive game will be plenty adequate as well for what he's going to be there for, which is going to be defense. It's going to be his calling card. But, I think he will have games even in the NBA where he can give you a little bit of a scoring bump as well.
He's in a really good spot. I think as a two-way player, a player who's developing, what the beauty is, you can go get minutes with the G League team and play a lot, and then turn around a week later and be playing and helping out the NBA
and because
team.
He's so defensive oriented, and he's got such great length and footwork and just anticipation, basketball IQ, he can just make that transition easily and immediately contribute in exactly the way you need him to.
A week from, I think tomorrow, Buzz will be joining the show, so we'll start doing stuff with Buzz.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm looking forward to this season, this team. I consumed all of the TexAgs content. Olin did a great job from Birmingham. By the way, I think TexAgs was the one entity covering A&M that was there at SEC Media Days. And that, to me, and what we try to do here, that kind of stuff matters. And we love Aggie basketball. Those sports, basketball and baseball, are like what I'm passionate about as the fan in me, because I can sit here and talk about it and cover it on radio, but I also get to just be the fan when we got people like Bronny. And by the way, Luke Evangelist is going to really help out with hoops this year along with Hop. But I think this basketball team should be really good. And as you look at that schedule, they're going to be put to the test
early.
Look at that. At Ohio State, they have the last couple of years haven't been, but that's a powerful big historic. They got a ton of history, even recent. SMU, Penn State, and
the rematch
goes without saying. Oral Roberts has been good. Now it's been a couple players that are no longer there. One of them is going to be playing in Austin. One of them Lubbock, or was in Lubbock. You look at FAU, Final Four team last year. Butler, I know A&M beat them a couple of years ago, but Butler, 2 national championship game appearances in the last 10 or 15 years. Virginia, a recent national title.
Yeah.
Memphis is going to be. They're always going to be strong, and obviously recent history there as well. U of H, recent Final Four, terrific program there under Kelvin Sampson. That is a brutal non-conference schedule. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love that schedule for Texas A&M, because you know why? When you have a badass
veteran
group
team
coming back of veterans, a star point guard that was named SEC preseason player of the year, and then guys like Coleman and Marble, and a 6th-year guy like Boots, and like there's all Solomon and the making that 2nd-year jump, and some portal additions that they're really excited about. I think Buzz Williams has a really salty group, so why not test them early?
I'm excited
because
about Manny
even if
too.
you drop a couple and you're not winning all of them, it'll be the opposite, where even your losses, as long as you keep them to a minimum, but even your losses help. But damn, those wins really help you. So at the end of the year, instead of getting left out, which they shouldn't have, they should never have been left out. I will never say otherwise. And instead of getting underseeded as a 7 when they should have been no worse than a 5, Instead, you might be getting the benefit of the doubt the other direction.
Sure.
Because of that schedule.
And by the way, this veteran group has seen it all already. They've seen the tough SEC schedule and then turning it on at the very end, getting hot at the tournament. They've seen the non-conference last year that didn't go their way and then turn it on for SEC play. They have seen it all. The next step, though, is to have a little success in March, which they're building towards that with a veteran unit coming back.
I think it's a necessary next step, but I also think you have to pay attention. And I know that Penn State loss was brutal, and it was just one-sided, and everything went bad for A&M. It was a terrible way to end a hell of a run and something that everybody was really excited about. But in the last 2 years, this team has the second-best record in all SEC games, counting tournament.
Mm-hmm.
They finished a game off of winning an SEC title this year. They beat number one. They're on a hell of a conference winning streak at home. They went to back-to-back SEC conference tournament finals. They went to an NIT final sandwiched in there. It's just they need to break through in March Madness. I believe they will. I think this team has all the makings of it. And all you can do is position yourself for March success starting later this month. What they need to do is, I think, win early this year and start padding almost like that goodwill for when tournament selection time comes. So, like I said, instead of getting underseeded because there might be an axe to grind or an agenda, or they might be holding something against you that happened early, like some of those early losses, which were bad last year, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So this team should be – my excitement level for Aggie basketball is as high as it's been. There might have been 1 year in there under Kennedy that I was really excited about. And that was actually a Sweet 16 team, but it was also a team that was terrific in conference and non-conference play, then struggled in conference play, and then put it together and regroup in the tournament. As excited as I've been, probably the most excited as I've been for the program and the direction of the program as I've been since Billy Gillespie left.
Since year 3 of Billy, right? Like going into it.
Before he left for Kentucky, like where I thought that program was going,
yeah,
that's where I'm at with Buzz. And I think the portal's a perfect weapon for Buzz Williams. And I think he's figured out how to best weaponize that for him and his program and how he does things, that blend, that mix. You mentioned a guy like Dexter Dennis. I mentioned just now guys like Coleman and Marble and Boots. I think he's done a great job of figuring out, like, and today's college basketball and the lack of the one and dones and the magnitude that those guys can, that actually plays right into the hands of a coach that likes to build a program the way Buzz does. So I couldn't be more excited about basketball and baseball right now under Buzz and Slosh.
We'll hit a break. We'll come back with one final segment right now. A moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. If you've bought a vehicle from Caldwell Country Chevrolet, everything I'm about to tell you, you can text in and be like, yep, I experienced it. We're talking great customer service. We're talking about a great price point. We're talking about getting good trade-in value. We're talking about the customer service that goes beyond just the day you buy the car. We're talking about extended service throughout. That's what they do there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet, including that complimentary pickup. We're talking about the entire package being in one place that's not too far away. You will love your experience if you start your search there at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. You can see the vehicles that they have. And get a kind of feel for the pricing and the vehicles that they have. Then you step on the lot, you're going to be like, wow, this is the place. We're all in a different season of life. You may be needing a vehicle now. You may be needing it in a few weeks, a couple years. You may have high schoolers about to be driving age. Well, that is the place to go for all of your driving needs out there. It's about a 15-minute drive, the very edge of Bryan to the very edge of Caldwell. Just a short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Final segment of the program, TexAgs Radio. About what? We have a minute left. Is that it? Goodness gracious. I'll just end it with this. Disney's trying to sell ESPN. Apparently, there's a bunch of, I think Clay Travis had a tweet about it. I have a little experience in this topic, and the reason it's relevant is because of the SEC being sold to ESPN, and if they're running out of money, and yada, 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 right? So I have a little bit of history with this. When I worked for a Disney O&O, owned and operated station, we heard these rumors every 2 or 3 years, and it never seemed to be for real truth, right? Like Disney's trying to get rid of this, and then they went to the whole streaming and digital, world, and they opened it up, and they're like, no, there's no way they're getting rid of the O&Os. There's too much content that comes from that. I don't know if we're at a different point though, because if if ESPN has been bleeding money as much as we've been reading about, and apparently they sent out the books about it, then now maybe is the time. And what that could do to the way we watch college football will be very interesting. I don't think they sell them, and I don't know if there's a buyer for it for them to get the value that they want. That's it. TexAgs Radio. See you mañana.